Welcome to MasterMind Minutes, the podcast that focuses on the franchise industry. We'll cover topics that are important to franchisees as well as franchisors and share interesting insights that will help you build your business. We have one guest, we ask one question, and we do this in minutes, not hours. Hello again, and welcome to another edition of MasterMind Minutes. My name is Gary Occhiogrosso. I am the founder and managing partner for Franchise Growth Solutions, the largest, most premier franchise sales organization in North America. And in MasterMind Minutes, a very simple concept. We have one guest, one question, one answer. We do it in minutes, not hours. And we realize that is, for the most part, a bit of a tease. So at the end of the program, we'll give you the contact information for our guest or their organization if you want to get involved or ask some additional questions. And today, my guest is Neil Hershman. He's the CEO of 16 Handles. And Neil first joined 16 Handles as a franchisee. And I love this story at the Murray Hill in Manhattan, New York location. He has since acquired and built a New York City dessert empire operating over a dozen retail locations. Now, in August of 2022, Neil acquired 16 Handles from its original founder, Solomon Choi, with plans to lead a national and international growth of this iconic Northeast brand. And I'm a fan, not only for many years, but I also use 16 Handles whenever I can. There's one not far from me up in Rockland County. Neil is a very active owner and CEO, and he leads all the strategic decision-making at 16 Handles. Everything from testing new ideas, ensuring customer experience, and everything that it takes to build a strong, profitable, and responsible franchise system. Outside the office, we were just talking before the program, he's a pretty interesting character we got here. He's a commercial rated pilot, which I love, and an alpine mountain climber. This guy actually climbed Mount Everest, and he won a 703-mile-long triathlon. So, Neil, thank you for being with us here today. I truly appreciate it. Before we get into the question, tell us a little bit about you and about 16, your vision with 16 Handles we can talk about, but tell us about you, because a pilot, triathlete, and scaling Mount Everest. Want to know more about that.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. That's great. So my background really was in finance, but even from like a young age, I just loved business operations. I loved making things more efficient and scaling them and making people happy. And that's why finance as a career didn't work out for me pretty quickly. Is ultimately we were kind of behind the scenes, and I liked tangible things that people touch and feel, and you could see the instant reaction, and not necessarily just using Excel spreadsheets all day. So I sort of made the shift in my 20s to some manufacturing businesses, and I was a big customer of 16 Handles all this while. And when I thought about going into food service, franchising made a lot of sense because coming from a financial background, like having those metrics, being able to, not have guaranteed results, but at least results of similar stores and similar concepts to follow made sense to me. And so I ended up getting involved with 16 Handles with one store, and then with just one summer of running the operations, realized there was a huge profit potential and a huge way to modernize the system. And so I bought all the additional New York City stores, and then eventually the franchisor, and now kind of operate both the stores as a franchisee and the franchisor in the hopes of scaling it and giving other people the same opportunities that I had. But I also like to keep it interesting and keep exercising. I think it's so great to like be fit, and it's such a privilege to be able to go outside and do things. So definitely spend a lot of time out of office adventuring and doing whatever I can. I've now got a young kid and another one on the way, so different types of adventures these days. Not so many mountains, but all fun, all really fun stuff.
Well, it sounds great. Well, raising kids is a different mountain to climb. And I will tell you, don't let the pebble in your shoe slow you down, okay? Because it could. That's great stuff. Look, I can tell you in my former life before launching my current company, I headed up a multi-brand franchisor that was embedded in a family office in a private equity firm. And one of my functions was to acquire franchise brands. So I sort of know the challenges that go along with that. And when we talk about those challenges, some of them are, winning over franchisees that perhaps may not be in the best, state of mind as it relates to the brand, or carrying on the legacy of the brand, or actually building upon it and innovating it. And sometimes, to some extent, reviving it. So, with that sort of as the backdrop, what I would really like to start out with here as our question is, you know, how do you see carrying on 16 Handles legacy, and your vision of sort of growing it? Where do you see that and carrying on that legacy?
Yeah, and sorry for the radiator noise in the background. We're in the New York City office, so if you hear the
Listen,
planes,
I'm a New Yorker. It's
uh,
this the
that's
7 train used to go through my bedroom in Queens. Okay, it's okay.
classic New York City sound.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, it's a great question. So I came into the brand as a franchisee probably when the brand was about 10 years old, took over as franchisor 3 years later, so 13, 14 years old. So there was a lot of history and a lot of early franchisees who had owned a store for a decade or so. And they'd hit great sales. They were still open after, 10 years. That means they're signing a lease renewal. That's like the best thing that could happen to a franchisor. But nobody was overly excited the way I was. And that's why, even the founders who had grown it to this size, uh, at some point, it's not as interesting sometimes. And I was sort of the fresh blood in the franchise when I started as a franchisee, had all these new ideas, wanted to push them through quickly and just make changes and see how it worked. And what's great is I had stores and I had the flexibility from the franchisor to test some of these ideas. And we saw some, very early success, a lot of efficiencies, a lot of ways to improve, a lot of marketing benefits that we could do that just the brand wasn't previously doing to grow revenue and cut cost at the same time, which that's the win-win. That's where I said, oh, this is a great business opportunity. And um, so when I took over as franchisor, the first thing was like spend 6 months internally, just working internally. Don't try and sell a unit, just make everybody more profitable, higher revenue, new customers, updated branding, because the stores that were 10 years old and signing lease renewals look like they were 10 years old. And
Yeah,
so
I hear
it
you.
was, but you don't want to tell a franchisee, hey, go spend $30,000 or we're going to default you. It's a totally different conversation with us. It's like, hey, let's figure out a way to, do some paint, do some touch up, do little things and make people happier and make you as the owner happier to go to the space and feel like, wow, this looks amazing. And so that's the way I wanted to approach everything because that's the way that I approached it myself in my stores. Uh, and so we spend a lot of time fixing internal issues, making things better. And so, every franchisee at this point is like in the highest revenue they've had. We've been over 10% up 3 years in a row on same store sales. And now we're like getting texts from franchisees who are like, I need more deliveries from my distributor. I've never moved this much product and we don't have storage space because the store just was built with a 6x6 walk-in and like we need more delivery. And like those are great problems to have is that stores are hitting new records. And yeah, so we're really happy with the way things have gone internally. And then after that, we were able to focus externally. And one of the things I also wanted to do was not be the only franchisee helping manage and run the brand, but also bring on other people who knew the brand as well as I did. And so some of the staff at our corporate office, like Lisa Mallon, who is our VP of Ops and Training, is a original franchisee of 16 Handles. They own her and her husband own a store in Fairfield, Connecticut. That's I know on their 13th year. It's actually one of our top grossing. It is our top grossing store. Um, and so it's like, who knows the brand better than the people who've been doing this for a decade and who can sell the brand and train the brand better than that?
Yep.
Right. I don't want to be a corporate brand. I want to be the 16 handles that I joined, just modernized and more efficient and higher revenue. And so that's what we've tried to build um, at 16 handles. And that's, hopefully where the legacy lives on is we're taking that kind of small organic brand approach because 16 handles was grown to 30 or so units as an organic brand. There wasn't really paid marketing. There wasn't really a franchise sales officer who was, going to all the trade shows and everything. The brand grew because customers came into the original stores, said, "This is awesome. I live 30 minutes away from here, in this suburb of New York City, or, in Albany, New York, an hour and a half up, whatever it is. I want to open one of these there. It would crush." And so I want that same approach as we now try to expand outside of the Northeast, outside of the 30 units into these new states. And uh, it's worked. I mean, the franchisees we found have been like the coolest people. And every franchisee that is open, we never want to leave after their opening week. We're like,
Hmm.
this is
Hmm.
awesome. This is the future. Like we just want to spend all day here.
Yeah.
Run the store with them. It's been a blast. And yeah, we've opened a few new stores in Texas, in Houston especially has been really great for us. In Florida, continue the expansion. Over the next 2 months, we're opening South Carolina with one, two, and then three stores within 3 months. All under construction. Arizona later this year. So opening up these new territories and then continuing to, build concentration within the territories we're in, turning our single unit operators into multi-unit operators. Yeah.
I, I love everything you just said. It's and you're spot on in terms of what you're bringing to the table here. I can recall the very first time Solomon called me, and I went to see the unit on Second Avenue. I think it was Ninth Street and Second Avenue. And I went at night because I was busy during the day. And the first thing that struck me was there was a party going on on the street out in front of the shop, and I thought, "Oh, what's this?" It's a yogurt shop, not a bar, but there was a vibe going on there that was just so cool and so impressive. And there were a couple of yogurt shops around at that point. That was sort of the second generation of yogurt. Probably, you may not remember. You might not have even been born back in the '70s. There was this yogurt craze. Like if you ate yogurt, you were going to be like the healthiest individual in the world until you put 4 pounds of gummy bears on it. But that's another story for another day. But what I recall in those earlier days with Solomon was that he was completely focused on the things that you're talking about in terms of innovation and being different and being cool. And hey, yogurt that's the product. The froyo is the product, but this is more about the whole piece. So with that in mind, like I recall, and you do too, you were franchisees, like I don't recall the froyo shops that were doing things with like oat milk or sorbet or some of the innovative things like rotating flavors and some of the cool flavors that I remember, like cheesecake and just some of those things. So from a product innovation, because I get it on the franchisee relationship innovation, I get that. But on the consumer side, which helps deliver dollars to the franchisee, where do you see the innovation and how do you see keeping that going in terms of new flavors, new products, yes, new territories, maybe new marketing? Where do you see yourself taking it?
Yeah, I think it's new products is a portion of it, but I would say a small portion of it. We got back to the roots of 16 handles. A lot of what you said is very true. I think in the DNA of the brand is very much new flavors all the time, and flavors you don't expect. So we got back to the new flavor every 16th of the month, but then we're also giving much more variety to our operators to choose different flavors. So there's like this store has 16 flavors, 16 handles, the handles that you pull, obviously, for those that don't know. There's probably like six or eight that people will never get rid of, right? A store will always have vanilla. It will always have cookies and cream and birthday cake and our classic tart because those are the flavors that like are the most addictive, and people just they want the steady. But that means there's also eight or six flavors that are always rotating. And the variety that we have that rotates is all really good, really unique. And if you're still going to get vanilla, you may try one of those flavors. And just having that experience somewhere is so much better than the alternative of just like go to a drive-through, order exactly what you want, get exactly what you want. It's the same thing you had. It fills a void, but it doesn't necessarily give you that experience. So it's all about the experience at 16 ounces. And
Yeah.
that's why you get that party atmosphere. And we really are attractive to what I call the broad millennial, the 25 to 45-year-old, not 12-year-olds and 10-year-olds like some other brands just want to attract. kids love 16 handles. Of course they do. It's the product makes sense for kids. There are sugary flavors. Cotton candy with gummy bears is a great flavor for kids, but that's not our core audience, and that's not
Mhm.
who we want our core audience to be. The stores don't look like they're built for kids. They look more like a Starbucks or a Panera Bread that's built for somebody in their 20s, 30s, 40s to enjoy. And then, that way we're able to hit a much broader audience than some of our
Yeah.
competitors. Uh, so that's one of the ways.
Yeah.
Marketing is another big tool in our arsenal. And I've always like to think about marketing much more than just ice cream shops near me as a Google Ads word, or because everyone is doing that. It's competitive. We're doing that too. Just to be
Right.
clear, we will still
Yeah.
work on getting that space
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
organically and paid. But
Right.
it's also like you get your wisdom teeth removed as an example, right? The dentist told you, or the orthodontist will tell you, eat soft foods. So now, if we Google or we go onto Google and say people who get their wisdom teeth removed who have to eat soft foods, they're going to be Googling these search terms. Let's put ad money into that because those people will come to us 16 handles. They'll have it 3 or 4 times in a week, and then they won't be able to stop coming back. And so if we could win a customer that way off a really cheap ad, because who is Google, who
Yeah.
is
Oh, you're winning that bid every day of the week.
exactly. And so we do a lot in that kind of creative marketing landscape. People don't think of a Froyo shop as a place to fundraise, but it is. And so we also do a lot of fundraisers because, if you're a college fraternity, sorority, sports team, whatever, or high school graduating class that needs to fund a prom or something, what easier sell to your friends than come get Froyo and 20% of the sales go back to.
Right.
And now you've got 60 or 80 people who wouldn't otherwise go to the 16 handles, go to the 16 handles. They try 5 flavors. They get a big cup of one. They're going to come back because one of those flavors that they tried that they didn't get, they're kind of craving 3 days later. Oh, that mango is really good or something. And it's really hot outside. I'm going to go. And so,
Yep.
just being open to all these kind of new alternative ways to get traffic into the stores has really uh, been a key factor, a key differentiator in getting our sales up and to what I like to think is the highest AUV in frozen dessert, um, and especially in frozen yogurt.
Yeah.
Uh, and then the variety of products. It's like it's so fun for our team and our franchisees also have input on coming up with some of these new flavors. Last summer, one of our big signature flavors was French fry frozen yogurt with real Idaho potato mixed into the French fries, into
Okay.
French fry frozen yogurt. And the marketing behind that was all, sorry, our French fry machine is broke down. Playing off of McDonald's McFlurry machine always being broken down. So we
Right.
copied like the old 80s McDonald's ads with the red lipstick and the whole thing. It,
Yeah.
it was great.
I love it.
And we sold a ton of cases of French fry frozen yogurt. And was it good? Did people actually get a cup? No, of course not, because it's like it's not what you go in for. But you went and experienced it and tried it. And just that was so much more powerful than any other flavor we could have
Yeah.
launched.
Yeah. Look, you, I'll tell you, preaching to the choir, because my focus over the last 40 years in business is in the restaurant of quick service. I started out as a franchisee of Dunkin', and what you just talked about really are ways that increase the occasion to use or frequency of visit, which in the quick serve business, that's what it's all about, because you're not getting a guest to come in and spend $300 as if they were going out for a steak dinner, at Smith and Walensky's. Okay, so you need to get them to come back. And I can tell you, so I would sometimes be near or passing a 16 handles and not really wanting, but going, oh well, I wonder what they got. What's like the new flavor that they got, the new couple of flavors or whatever. And I would go in and buy something just because I was curious, and then I would go, okay, they got me in that extra time, occasion to use. So when you spoke earlier about profitability and unit economics, that's what it's all about. I mean, from a franchisee's point of view, it's all about unit economics and profitability and driving that. I guess as a last topic here, going back to sort of the franchising portion of this, which is really the pond that I play in. Talk to me about like new territories. How are you attracting new franchisees? Who's the persona of your buyer? What's sort of the vision of growth for the next, call it 2, 4 years, as you see it?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's one that's difficult because uh, you can't create people, right? You have to use who's out there. Uh,
Absolutely.
so so we don't have an exact formula for it, but what we've seen the most success with, which is not surprising because it's kind of where we aimed anyway, was young families, usually parents who have done well in another business or even in corporate jobs and just want the escape. Um, who feel like there's a void of missing frozen yogurt because they are trying to take their kids to get dessert and there's limited dessert options in their town. And then they're looking at frozen yogurt and saying, what is the brand that's actually innovating, that's actually growing at this point?
Yep.
Because there are a lot of brands, like you said, there was different waves of frozen yogurt. Um, there's brands that were very successful and grew and had a decade or so of success. But then they sold out to larger conglomerates and stopped doing all of that. And so they've sort of stabilized, even begin to shrink, become boring, whatever you might say. It's just they're not exciting. And 16 handles is that exciting one. So most of the people who we're attracting are people who kind of say, hey, there's this big void in my town. Um, and we want to come get it. What we're trying to steer away from is the big multi-unit groups that say, hey, this is a really efficient model. We should put up 10 or 20 of these and buy the state. And it's an easy way to grow, but it just doesn't feel like it will have the right uh, persona behind it. It's
Yeah.
like if you look at the review of any 16 handles, especially the new stores, the owner's name is so often mentioned. The employee greeting is so often mentioned. There's something about that community building element. And that's why I think franchising in frozen yogurt or dessert works so well is you get the tie of the product, the marketing, the experience, all that from the national brand. But then you also get that community owner who can talk to the PTA, not as an organization, as a person who lives in the
Yeah.
community with kids in that same school district,
Yeah.
or talk to the sports teams because they go to the sports games or any of that. And so that kind of partnership works so well. And so we want to just keep doing that because I think that's why our sales per location are so high comparatively to some of these other brands is we haven't just tried to grow this as like a, hey, let's just open 250, 16 houses. So it's usually young families who are really ingrained in their community, um, and just looking to either diversify or be able to own their own business, and want to make people happy. Because like
Yep.
the worst thing that happens in our business is like somebody's unhappy. Hey, come back. I'll treat you to a free ice cream, and they're happy again,
Yeah,
right?
I hear you, and I agree with you 100%. And it's interesting because yeah, you can run the business strictly by the P&L, and I can tell you that I launched a business in the '90s. We grew it, you know, near 100 units and offloaded it to private equity, and all of a sudden, everything we built the company on was now being run by a P&L, and the thing went south really fast. And if you go back to my earlier statement about the very first time I went to visit a 16 handles, there was this party going on. It told me about the connection to the community and it told me about how the owner is important. And I think when you're running a local business, because you could have 5,000 of these, but at the end of the day, the 16 handles that I go to in my neighborhood is a local business.
Yep.
And there has to be that connection. So I completely agree. And I think people who have their heart in it and people who are willing to become ambassadors for the brand in their community are the people who will be successful in this type of a business. Couldn't agree with you anymore. If somebody wanted to reach out and learn more about 16 handles, maybe to become a franchisee or just learn more about it, how do they do that? What's the best way?
Yeah, our VP of franchise development, Fred, would be happy to speak to anybody, give them info on the brand. I'm also available to answer questions, usually through our website, own16handles.com, or you can just go to the 16 Handles website and find a link there. Yeah, and please connect with us if interested. We trying to be as transparent as possible. We're very proud of um, our FDD. A lot of brands are like hiding behind their FDDs and like, oh, you only get this if you fill out an application. Like we're proud of what we're doing. We really like our system. We like our franchisees. We want you to connect with other franchisees within our system. before you invest in it, and build the 60 handles to really learn about the experience, learn about the sport, learn about what it could be in 5 or 10 years for you if
Yeah.
you manage it correctly. Because it's much easier for us to grow as a brand if we turn a single unit into a multi-unit than to try and sell a bunch of single units. So
Yep.
we're trying to foster a happy franchise community and turn all of our first unit owners into second unit owners into actually owning their city and having 5 or 6 16 handles around.
I love it. I love it. Well, listen, I'm super excited for you. I'm super excited for the brand. Really happy to see the legacy of 16 handles kind of continue and grow and thrive and get better and better every day. I look forward to meeting you in person at some point. And again, I want to thank you for your time here today. It's been enlightening and very interesting. And I will say, it's been somewhat invigorating to me because I know the brand and now I see it in your hands and I'm feeling like, hey, this is great. This thing is just going to keep going and going and going. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.